Continuing with our discussion of section 1.3, let's complete the following sentence. To add or subtract rational numbers written as fractions, ... What do we do? Well, many of you might remember or might not remember that in order to add or subtract rational numbers, we need to find a least common denominator. So find the least common denominator. Writing this out, common denominator. Then combine the numerators over the common denominator. Okay, so what does that mean right here? Well, let's say we're asked to add these two numbers. They're two negative numbers, so what we're going to end up doing is just adding 3/4 and 1/6 and putting the negative in front of the result. So we're going to be adding 3/4 and 1/6, and the very first thing that we're asked to do right here is that if we're going to add, we have to find a common denominator. But not any old common denominator will do. Certainly we could just multiply 4 times 6 and get 24, and that would be a common denominator. But what we want is the least common denominator, the LCD. So we ask ourselves to find the LCD, what is the smallest number that 4 and 6 will divide into evenly? Well, we know 4 times 6 is 24, but we can do better than that. 4 divides evenly into 12, and so does 6, and that's going to be our least common denominator. So if we want to add these two fractions together, that's what we're going to have to do, is to rewrite these fractions so that they have that common denominator. So let's do that here. We're going to put a fraction bar. I'm going to put 12 in the denominator. We might ask ourselves, well, what do I have to multiply by 4 to get 12? And the answer to that is 3. So I multiply the numerator by 3 as well, and we get 9. Let's talk about 1/6. We know that 1/6 becomes a fraction over 12 if we multiply the denominator by 2. So we multiply the numerator by 2 as well. You can think of this process right here as the following. If I have 3/4 and I want to make it into a denominator of 12, that means multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number to get us our fraction 9/12. So when we add these two, we add the numerators over the common denominator. So this is going to be the same thing as saying taking -9 and adding -2 over the common denominator of 12, giving us the result -11/12. That's not a very good 11. I have to pick up my pen a little bit here. -11/12. This would be our answer for the first one. So let's extend this process out here, and let's talk about our expression right here, where we're going to add and subtract these three fractions together. Well, we look at our for our least common denominator of 2, 8, and 4, and we note that 2 and 4 all would multiply evenly into 8. And so that is going to be our least common denominator. It can be one of the fractions. We don't have to multiply them directly. We just say the least common denominator in this case is going to be the number 8. So we need to rewrite each fraction individually to reflect that. So we're going to get negative something over 8. Well, 1/2. What do we have to multiply? 2 times 4 gives us 8. So 1 times 4 is going to give us the numerator of 4 right here. The denominator 3/8 is already 8, so we don't have to change anything there. We just multiply by 1. The next one, 4ths, Well, that becomes a fraction over 8. If we note that 4 times 2 gives us 8, therefore the numerator 1 times 2 gives us 8. And so our addition process here will be the process of adding, or subtracting as appropriate, the numbers -4 plus 3 minus 2 all over the common denominator of 8. So, going in order, down the row right here, -4 plus 3 is -1 minus 2 over 8. And if we combine those two, we get -3 divided by 8. And this is our combined fraction. One more question we ask is, when is a fraction in simplest form? What does that mean? Simplest form means that the fraction might have common factors already in the numerator denominator. And as an example, let's take the fraction 18/72. Sort of an interesting fraction right there. I wonder what it would reduce to. Well, what we're going to try and do is find common factors in the numerator denominator. We think about 18, for example. We know that 18 is the same thing as 9 times 2. We ask, well, is 72 divisible by 2? Sure it is. 36 times 2 is the same thing as 72. But we might also note that 9 divides evenly into 36. It's like saying 9 times 2 divided by 9 times 4 times 2. And we can cancel any of the common factors in the numerator denominator of this fraction. So this 9 will divide out. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 2 divided by 4 is 1. And so our result is going to be the same thing as saying 1/4. This is our simplest form of the fraction.